Let's Talk Careers, a talk show for students
and hosted by students. Hi, I'm Helena, a senior at Richard Montgomery High School.
And I'm Taylor, a senior at Wheaton High School and Thomas Edison School of Technology.
And I'm Ashley, a junior at Gaithersburg High School. We are delighted to introduce our career guests for today, leaders from the world of healthcare and community health. Welcome to Let's Talk Careers.
Please allow me to introduce you to our first guest, Dr. Travis Gales. Since September of 2017, he has served as the Chief Public Health Services and Health Officer for Montgomery County's Department of Health and Human Services. In his position, Dr. Gales works to support the health and well-being of residents across Montgomery County. Thank you for joining this panel.
Thank you for having me.
Our next guest is Dr. Ana Maria Izquierdo Porrera, the Executive Director and Lead Clinician at Care for Your Health. In 2008, she founded Care for Your Health to improve the care of elders in the community. Care for Your Health has designed multiple programs, including an expanding home visiting program to reach the underserved in the community and support them as they continue to live in their homes and communities. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Last but definitely not least, our final guest is Ms. Ruth Williams-Brinkley, Regional President of Kaiser Permanente. In this role, she oversees all of Kaiser Permanente's care delivery and health plan operations in Washington, D.C., suburban Maryland, Baltimore, and Northern Virginia. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for joining us today. This show is coming to you live via YouTube by the way of Zoom. The show is designed to let students learn about different career paths and to hear the journeys of successful men and women like the speakers with us today. Students are submitting questions live via our YouTube chat and have also sent in questions prior to today's show to ask our guests. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can.
We are so excited to get to learn more about your careers and about healthcare and community health. Let's dive in. So our first question posed to our speakers today, what has been your favorite job and why? We could start with Dr. Izquierdo, go to Ms. Williams-Brinkley, and end with Dr. Gales.
So I just love taking care of patients. All the millions of things I do, at the end of the day, the ones that make me smile is when I was able to take care of someone.
As a nurse by training, I really also enjoy taking care of patients. And while my current job doesn't allow me to do that, it gives me great joy in knowing that I have an impact on patients' health and ultimately on their lives. So it gives me a lot of fulfillment and a lot of joy.
Well, I'm going to have to echo what's been said already. My favorite job was when I was seeing patients directly. And the area that I focused on actually are your population, adolescents and young adults. And so my favorite times were, being able to go in and have conversations about what's going on in the teenage life and what's your future hold in those kinds of conversations. I do miss that.
I love all of your dedication to health. It seems so amazing that you have this dedication to help people. Did you have an internship or academic experience that helped you define your interest in healthcare? We can start this off with Ms. Williams-Brinkley, Dr. Gales, and then pass it on to Dr. Izquierdo.
I grew up in a very small rural area in Georgia, and so internships were not available. My grandmother was the person who influenced me to go into healthcare and really to be a nurse. And it has just proven to be such a rewarding career for me. Let me say, though, for those of you who are interested in healthcare, or think you're interested in healthcare as a career, I would strongly encourage you to have an internship, because you want to know what you like and you also want to know what you don't like. If you find the thing that calls you as a career, you will have so much more joy conversely, if you find something you don't like and you choose it as a career, it could be a miserable time. So I would say get an intern, get an internship, get a mentor if you can, and move forward with that.
I was actually very fortunate I grew up in a rural town in Virginia, not in Georgia, but I was fortunate there was a program when I was in high school called the Governor's School Program of Virginia. And they had a summer opportunity where they would invite 30 high school students to, then it was called MCV, Medical College of Virginia, to get paired with a physician for 6 weeks. And I had the opportunity to work with a phenomenal doctor. It was Dr. Thomas Lochran, orthopedic surgeon, who just completely opened my eyes up to, yes, the fun part about surgery. I got to see, witness operations and those kinds of things. So from a technical standpoint, that was just flat out cool. But I also got to see how he interacted with his patients and how he worked with, community providers to make sure that individuals who may not have had the financial ability to pay for their services or had access to care, he made sure that they got the operations that they needed. And that's something that just continues to resonate with me as I move through my career, is making sure to use the resources I have available to share them with those who aren't a part of those conversations or may not have access to those tools.
So for me, I didn't have an internship, but my dad was from a little village. There were 257 people living in that village. So we would spend the summers there. And when we would go for a walk, I would stop by the fountain where all the elders were sitting and chatting. And my friends were like, "Ugh, this is so boring. Let's go." I'm like, "No, let's stay." So, and then I went to medical school and, my friends like, "Oh, what do you want to be?" And like, "Oh, I think geriatrics. I like old people." They're like, "But they all die." I'm like, "I know, but my job is not to save everyone. It's to just give them a good life while they're alive, right?" So, if you are not sure where your passion is, an internship is very important because as Ms. Ruth said, you need to find something that gives you joy. You need to wake up and look forward to going to work, because if not, you're gonna have a miserable life. So, and the other thing that Ms. Williams said that is absolutely important, find a mentor. Find someone you admire that can help you through, that can guide you, that can help you think in a different direction if you're not thinking, because those things are gonna essentially be important to the professional you become, and whether you enjoy what you do on a daily basis or you don't.
Thank you all for sharing those personal stories and giving us some wonderful advice. Our next question relates to how, when people think about careers in healthcare, sometimes they immediately think of becoming a doctor or a nurse. So just to give us some insight into what other fields are out there, could you list 3 other jobs in healthcare and community health that students might not immediately think of? And Dr. Gales, we can start with you, then go to Ms. Williams-Brinkley, and finally to Dr. Izquierdo.
Well, there's tons of other opportunities, but if you're going to force me to name 3, public health folks, whether you're talking about public health planning, in terms of planning all of the vaccine rollouts and things like that, emergency preparedness in terms of disasters, or unfortunately we're living through a pandemic right now, or I think completely on the other side of stuff, child life specialists and respiratory therapists and folks who aren't our providers but don't fit the traditional doctor nurse piece. And I just want to add one thing to what was added before. Mentorship is so important. I consider myself to be a grown adult, but I continue to have mentors to help provide advice to me and help me figure out questions. So it's important. There's lots of folks out there who it sometimes can be a little intimidating when you're younger to go reach out to somebody and say, well, you help me out and be my mentor, that kind of thing. But there are lots of us out there who are interested in doing that because someone did that for us. So don't be afraid, particularly if there's someone who is extending that arm or offering that opportunity. Don't be afraid to follow up with them.
I would absolutely support that and encourage you. Just ask somebody. People are busy, but they're just waiting for someone to ask them to be a mentor. I'm going to give you 3 additional areas that you can work in if you don't want to be a doctor or nurse. A dentist. The mouth is part of the body and a very important part of the body. Dental, oral hygienists, all the careers around dental health or oral health. Another area I think of are the administrative areas such as finance. Someone has to keep track of the financial management of any business, whether it's a healthcare organization, whether it's an office, or if it's a clinic. Someone has to manage the business side of it. So if you like numbers and you want to be in healthcare, that may be your thing. And then the last thing I would say would be a teacher. There are somebody who has to teach all the nurses and doctors and all the people who are in supportive fields. So there are many, many ways you can take a career or a profession or a vocation that may not seem like it's really related to healthcare, and it can be a part of healthcare.
Mm-hmm. And then there are all these other professions, like all the therapies, right? Respiratory therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy. Another big chunk of, I think, very important aspect of the healthcare system is the mental health. If your mental health is not good, your body health is not good. They are together. So psychologists, social workers, all that are very, very important pieces. And then if seeing patients is not your thing, it's like, vomit and they're sick and not my thing, think about research. We have vaccines today because people dedicated their lives to do research and got us the technology we have today to deliver healthcare. So you don't necessarily need to love seeing patients in order to be in the healthcare system.
Thank you all for illustrating how diverse the healthcare and community health industry really is. We have actually already received a YouTube question, and it is, out of all the jobs in this industry, what made you narrow it down to the job you have right now? And Ms. Williams-Brinkley, could you start us off? And then we can go to Dr. Izquierdo and then Dr. Gills.
Well, thank you for that question. It really is an interesting question because in my case, the jobs found me. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Growing up in a rural area like Anna Maria, the little area I grew up in was about 450 people. And so I didn't know what I wanted to be, but what I did over the course of my career was to say yes to every opportunity that came to me. So as a clinical nurse, as I was working as a clinical nurse, someone asked me if I wanted to be a manager. I said, yes, I'll try it. Then I did all the management jobs. And then someone asked me would I serve as an interim CEO for a hospital system. And I said, yes. I said yes to every career opportunity that came my way. That made sense. And so I think you have to be willing to take risk, and you have to, know what's right for you. Again, knowing what you love, where your passion lies, and what gives you joy. And so I said yes to those things. And that's how I came to the career. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that to everybody because not everyone wants to explore like that. I do recommend that you have a plan for your career. I really strongly recommend it. I didn't have one and it worked out for me without one, but I recommend that you have a plan. And the plan may not go exactly as you want it to go, but have one and deviate as it makes sense.
So for me, in terms of a doctor, I just don't remember a time where I didn't want to be a doctor. Oh, let me see what I want to do. But ending up working in the community was, like Ms. Williams is saying, right? A series of steps, right? That each opportunity taught me something. that made me understand what the next opportunity needed to look like. And eventually I started my own nonprofit to deliver a service that was not available in my community, right? So each opportunity you take will inform and teach for the next one. And so on and so forth. And you will learn what you like of what you do and what you don't like. And the next opportunity you will choose so that it has more of what you like and less of what you don't like. This is not a black or white situation. This is a journey that you will engage. And again, I love what Ms. Williams-Brinkley says, which is find joy in it, because you spend so much time at work that if you are not happy at work, you're just not going to be happy.
I think for me, similar to what's been discussed already, is a combination of my interest, and then it also found me, if you will. I just celebrated my 20-year college reunion. And so I think back to when I was in college, I discovered public health and this thing called health policy that I really, really enjoyed. And at that time, you know, there were very limited schools of public health, and health policy wasn't as attractive and sexy and talked about as it is these days. And so when I graduated, I couldn't decide if I wanted to pursue health policy or I wanted to pursue medicine, and the best way to do that. And so I think luck is where preparation meets opportunity, if you've heard that before. And so I got lucky. When I applied to medical school, I received an invitation to apply from the University of Illinois that had a dual degree program where you could get your MD, but then you could also get a PhD in any of their graduate departments. And they happened to have a Department of Community Health with a health policy focus. And so I said, oh, well, let me apply. And fortunately, it lined up that I ended up getting in. And so I was able to study both tracks. And so when I look at my current job now, yes, as I mentioned, I do miss seeing patients, but I also enjoy being able to put together the clinical side, the scientific side, the research side, as well as the policy side and community advocacy. So I tell people all the time that I had no choice but to be doing what I'm doing today because all of my training and preparation led here. And I do enjoy it. But as Dr. Izquierdo mentioned, it is this question of evolution. And, you know, another question that folks often ask me is, well, what did you major in college? It really doesn't matter what you major in college. It's the opportunity to find what you enjoy and to find what your passions are. And for me, starting college, again, I thought I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon. I was majoring in engineering because I felt that's what I had to do. And I discovered health policy. And 20 years later, I've been fortunate to be able to do that on a daily basis and stay involved in those conversations.
Thank you all for sharing that. That was like so enriching. On that note, I just want to ask all of you, can you share with our students the type of work you do in your current position and what a day in the life of your current job looks like for you? We could start with Dr. Izquierdo, go to Dr. Gales, and with Ms. Williams-Brinkley.
So for me, it's a combination of seeing patients, because even I'm the executive director, I'm not giving up seeing patients. And then guiding the strategy of the organization. And what that means essentially is looking at what we want to accomplish and then setting programs that help us accomplish that mission, right? So we wanted to make sure that our elders were taken care of in a way that they could stay home, that they didn't need to go to a nursing home, or they didn't. So what do you build to do that, right? So we build a home visiting program where we go to their homes, right? We make sure that we have palliative care, so at the end of their life, they can still live at home. And then the pandemic comes, and we see our community, and particularly our communities of colors, right? Latinos and Black people dying, young people dying. So we say, hey, we just need to take care of that, right? We it's part of our community, and it's part. So how do we support the efforts, and how do we make sure that the members of our community are taken care of? So part of it is really the day-to-day working and seeing patients and writing my notes. Oh, I hate writing notes, but I have to do it. But then the other part is how do we make this happen, right? And that is actually enjoyable too.
Right now, most of the day-to-day is briefings and meetings about COVID. But my job, I think it combines a lot of different things. It includes providing advice and guidance and setting policy on a global level for healthcare throughout the county, working with policy, elected officials and policymakers to help make sure that they have the right up-to-date information to make those decisions, whether we're talking about COVID or diabetes management or maternal and infant health, across the spectrum, working with community partners such as Dr. Izquierdo and her team when she talked about home, and this is just an example, talked about her homebound population. She and her team have been essential in terms of our efforts to make sure that that group gets vaccinated and protected within that. So working with community partners, not only just on COVID, but how we make sure that everybody in our county has fair, equitable access to healthcare so that they can have healthy outcomes. That extends to working with groups like Kaiser Permanente and Ms. Williams-Brinkley and her team around how we do those same things, how we increase access, and how we leverage all of the resources from a provider perspective to get people in, and also working with our hospitals and health centers. And the last thing I would say is, it's not lost on me that the representatives here do represent communities that have historically not been included in decision making and having seats at the table. And so I do think my job is also an opportunity to give voice to those groups that have historically not had access to decision making, and making sure that we also use our resources to put out data and to put out studies and to ask research questions so that we have a full picture, a complete picture that represents everybody and not just those who may be more privileged and have greater access.
Here,
Wow.
here.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking all that both of my colleagues said is just resonating in my head. So let me. The days are long. I try to build in some self-care. I get up every day about 5:30 in the morning so that I can try to work out, and then I try to get to bed by I tell myself 10, but it's usually 10:30 when I get to bed. In between, every day is different. When you're in these kinds of jobs, every day is different. There is some routine, but there's a lot of variety. And so at Kaiser Permanente, we are what you call an integrated system where we work very, very closely with our doctors. So there's three parts to our system. What we call the health plan, the insurance part of it, where we take care of people, pay their premiums, and it's a prepaid medical system. We have physicians, and in many of our regions, we have hospitals. We don't own hospitals in this region. We partner with a lot of other hospitals. Our model is probably unique in the industry in that we have all three parts together. And so my day is spent coordinating, collaborating with our physicians and with all of our care providers and with the partner hospitals that take our patients when they need to be hospitalized. Our system really focuses on trying to keep people healthy, although most people, I would say, not everybody, but most people are going to get sick at some point. And so when you get sick, what we do is our great physicians just take care of them and try to help them get well. If they need to be hospitalized, we put them in the hospital. And so my job is to make sure all of that works. It's like a symphony. And you got to make sure every instrument is playing its part. And so it's important to me and to our system that I keep our health plan and our physicians together and make sure that we are working in sync with each other, because ultimately we're serving about 800,000 people across these three jurisdictions. And for those people who buy Kaiser Permanente services, we want to make sure that each and every person has a positive experience. And so that's what I do. There's meetings, there's meetings internally, meetings externally, because to make all this work, it requires a lot of coordination and collaboration. So I hope somebody who's listening out there will want to do something like that at some point. It's a rewarding career. It's a rewarding job. It just is. So that's what a day is like for me.
Thank you. Dr. Gale, since you've just touched on this, could each of you describe how COVID-19 has changed your work and how you're working to combat it? And Dr. Izquierdo, can we start with you and go to Ms. Brinkley? And Dr. Gale, so if you have anything else to add.
So first, it has made my already long days much, much longer. So I've spent I tell my friends, in the last year, probably including weekends, I've had 15 days off. So that, if you are working in certain areas, you need to be prepared to set things aside when there's a crisis. And I'm sure Dr. Gales has equally long days for the last year. I think also for me, and touching a little bit with what Dr. Gales mentioned before, right? Witnessing our communities not have access to certain basic like testing and vaccines, or not have easy access and die more so than other communities because we couldn't do better for them, has been very challenging. And I know the county and Dr. Gales in his role has been looking at things from this equity lens, right? And how do we do this better? So we have built programs that we never thought that would be part of what we do, right? So we go to the community and we test people for COVID, and now we go into the community and people that maybe don't have internet and cannot sign up with a regular way, and we make sure that they get vaccinated too. So in addition to taking care of our elders at home, and we have stood up and said, no, our communities deserve better, and we're going to do what we can. So I'm looking forward for the end of the pandemic so I can sleep a little bit more. But it has been challenging, I think, in many ways.
Let me say that this has been the most impactful thing, our public health crisis in my life, and hopefully it will be the most impactful one in your lives. We won't see another one of these for a very, very long time. That being said, it has changed everything in terms of how we deliver care. First of all, how we keep our employees healthy and how our physicians keep themselves healthy. We have about 10,000 employees in this region and about 1,700 physicians. And so we want to make sure that people keep themselves healthy with personal protective equipment, commonly known as PPE, to protect themselves, because our workforce needs to stay healthy as well. And that includes mental and social and emotional health, because the pandemic has not only had a physical impact on people, it has had an emotional and a psychological impact. So I am so proud to work with the clinicians and the providers that work in our system, because they are our heroes, really. They are the people that are out there every day taking care of, keeping themselves safe, keeping themselves healthy, and certainly dealing with those communities that have been more adversely impacted than others. And so it's brought some real contrast to the front of our minds. We always knew there were things called disparities, and disparities are like inequalities, so to speak, of how people are treated. And we've seen how people of color have been disproportionately impacted because many of those people, of our people, have they were frontline workers, and so they could not work remotely. They had to be on the front lines, as well as with all of our healthcare providers. So we've had to just figure out, how do we keep this pandemic from completely overwhelming us, and now with vaccinations, to make sure we can get as many people vaccinated as possible. In summary, I would say that I've been in this region for going on a year, and that's been the primary force of conversation, discussion, and our work for the last year. So it's changed everything. And the last thing I would say is it changed how we deliver care. Before, we delivered a lot of care in person, and we still do, but now we do a lot of virtual care through telemedicine, telehealth. So it's just changed everything.
I actually don't have a lot to add. It's been very eloquently stated. I would just say, yes, our lives and focus on public health has changed drastically. I would say most people probably didn't know the health department existed, or just thought that it was just, doing restaurant inspections in the scope of public health. But what it has introduced, and I'm hopeful that this continues, and this actually gets to the challenge of you all thinking about coming into healthcare moving forward, because we're getting old. It's time for us to retire after COVID-19. We need your help, because the disparities that have been described have been around for decades. They were there when I started studying health policy 20 some years ago, and we haven't solved them. And we haven't we've renamed them. We've called them a lot of different things, but we haven't really truly rooted out the root causes of those. And I feel that younger generations have a new energy and a new perspective to help move those things forward, whether it's through an advocacy lens and asking tough questions and holding policymakers accountable. And I think that as we move forward, it's going to be important that we don't lose this momentum. Unfortunately, COVID highlighted the fact that Black and brown folks in our communities do disproportionately die earlier, do disproportionately have chronic disease issues, lack of access to care, all those things. But hopefully we won't have to have a pandemic show us that again. And hopefully this momentum that I would call it momentum, because we are having the conversations, we'll move through after we've gotten everybody vaccinated and through the queue to come up with some solutions and strategies that are really going to truly address these issues in a more meaningful way.
And if I might add, please, if I could have one moment to add the social aspects of this. Mm-hmm. So many people, we sometimes, as Dr. Gale said, we sometimes rename things, or we give them prettier names than they are. We talk about food insecurities and housing insecurities, and I think it makes us feel better, and those are appropriate terms, but let's call it what it is. It's homelessness and it's hunger. And so the social needs have been amplified because people have lost their jobs, they've lost their health insurance, they've lost their homes in many cases. And so the social needs are something that we've been focusing on. And I would urge all of you, and I know your generation is very socially minded, social health minded, think about the social needs of the people we're serving in our community. So I just wanted to add that.
No.
May I say something?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Following that. Oh, sorry, Ms. Taylor. If you look at health, only 15% of the outcome is due to the healthcare system. 40% of your health, and in some zip codes up to 50% of your health, is due to what Ms. Williams was discussing. And then there's a 10% due to environmental causes, and then the other percentage, you do the math, you're in school, is your behavior. right? Whether you eat well, you stay, okay. If you truly want to think of health as your career, it doesn't need to be in the healthcare industry. You could be advocating for healthy food supply into all communities, and you would be working on health. You could be advocating for minimum wage in our communities, and you would be working on health. Okay, so as you think, if you say, health is interesting, but maybe taking care of patients, no, you need to broaden your health, because the majority, like all I do, as hard as I work, only affects 50% of y'all's health. Okay, so what Dr. Gales has a little bit bigger impact. And then, when we work on this, what they're called social determinants of health, that has the biggest impact. So, you can still work in health and be trying to get everybody into a nice apartment. And that would have a major impact on their health.
And getting them food, because if you're hungry, you can't be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all of you for sharing that. I think those messages are really important to hear, especially living in this time we are now with COVID and everything. I just want to direct a certain question towards Ms. Brinkley. How does health administration work directly with patient care?
The way health administration works with patient care is to really try to put the processes in place to help people do the best job that they can. So for instance, let me give you an example. We have a lot of buildings around the region, probably 33 to be exact, 32, 33 buildings. One of my jobs is to make sure that those buildings are structured and designed and structured in a way that really helps our healthcare professionals do their jobs more effectively. And that's everything from how work is designed, how processes are laid out, how we sterilize things. It's my role to make sure those things work. And during COVID, for example, as we give people the PPE, we want to make sure we have enough PPE. So personal protective equipment, so that no one has to go into an area and be exposed to COVID or any other disease without protective equipment. So that's how administration works. We are there to make sure that people have the things that they need to do their jobs well, so that they don't have to worry about those things every single day. Another way administration works is through I talked about financial careers. We have to manage our resources so that we have enough resources to be successful. So someone calls a chief financial officer, keeps track of what we earn from our premiums and what we spend, and we have to spend less than we earn. It's just like if you have a part-time job, any of you, or if you have an allowance, you have so much that you make, and so you have to live within that. And do your sort of optional things within that budget if you're living on an allowance, or if you have a part-time job, or if however you get your money, you have to live on what you make. And so we make sure that happens. And the most important thing I think we do in administration is to make sure our members have what they need. People sign up for Kaiser Permanente because they want an integrated experience where they have their physicians all around them. They can get all of their health care generally in one place, and they don't want to have to worry about having to pay a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. It's our job to make sure that works, and that we invest their fees and their premiums wisely.
Thank you so much for that. I think it's so important that students know what administration does. I think a lot of the time it kind of gets mixed in with everything else. So thank you for the amazing insight. Dr. Izquierdo Porrera, we have a question for you. You've worked with various schools and universities. How has your experience within education complemented your current role and overall career?
Okay, so I actually had to repeat a big chunk of my education when I came to the US to be able to actually practice as a physician here. So what I have learned is that Each school has its flair and its way of doing things. And when you're in that school, you feel like that's the universe. That's how the universe operates, right? And then you go out like, oh, no. Let me give you an example, right? When I did medical school at Universitat de Barcelona, and then I did a geriatric residency in a Hospital General de Granollers. And then I did a fellowship at University of Maryland, and I repeated my residency again. So 16 years of training altogether. When I came here, I would tell, the nurse the medication that they needed to give and be done. And they were like, well, what do you want them to eat? I'm like, oh, you're the nurse, figure it out. What do you mean? You have to give me an order to eat. I'm like, dude, you're a nurse. What is so difficult about choosing that? No, you have to do it here. So, oh, okay, well, give a diabetic diet. Oh, okay. And then do you want them to walk? I'm like, but you're the nurse, choose that. So it was very different, right? And maybe the extreme difference that I experienced is more a matter of me being trained in a different country. But the reality is that when you train from one school to the other, things are done differently. Not everything. There's some basic protocols, but if I go from where I'm working to work for Kaiser, which I actually did for a while, I was one of their urgent care physicians. Very different way of doing things. So, and this story, aside from just, being a story, is to tell you that things vary depending on where you are. And what you need to focus is the core of what is important, right? And then the outside, let it vary. It doesn't really matter, right? But the core of what is important to your job is what you need to focus on and learn from every place pieces that serve your core and let go of the things that are not so important for that. If that makes any sense for you guys.
That definitely makes sense. Thank you for that wonderful insight on how to adapt to different circumstances. The next question is for you, Dr. Gales. So your work has mainly been focused on infectious diseases. So how has that experience prepared you for your position as Chief Public Health Officer?
Well, from a public health perspective, I have spent a fair amount of time in infectious diseases. And when I was in clinical practice, as I mentioned, my focus, I did a residency in pediatrics, and I specialized my training in adolescents and young adults. So the opposite spectrum from Dr. Izquierdo, and hats off to her with working with the geriatrics population, because it is an often forgotten population, and it's important that they have resources at that stage in life. And so I've had an opportunity when I was in Chicago practicing. I was a primary care provider for our adolescents who were living with HIV. And that's where I got introduced in terms of the infectious disease side of things. But what was interesting about it is so much of what influenced that, though working with that patient population, had nothing to do with the clinical stuff. Yes, they had to come in and get their labs and get their medication and so forth, but so much of what we provided to them was making sure they had housing, stable housing, educational opportunities, they had food to eat. One of the things that I often think about is when we go to the doctor, we tell people, well, I need you to take your medication with food. Do you have food? Do you have a place to store your medication? And, when talking about diabetes, we tell people all the time, Dr. Izquierdo talking about the diet is you need to eat this, and this in order to be healthy. Well, one, can I afford those options? And what you're telling me, does that actually taste good? And is it relevant within my culture? It's like, you're telling me I can only eat these types of foods. So, what I pull from that into the public health side of things now is a an understanding, and I learn new things every day, but an appreciation probably is a better word, of how all of those non-clinical things impact a person's ability to be healthy and have a good outcome. And one of the things that will stick with me forever is the first patient actually who I provided on my own as a clinician a diagnosis of HIV was an 18-year-old young man in Chicago. And I was nervous about telling the diagnosis because I didn't know how he was going to react. But he was fine with it. And I said, tell me more about that. I'm surprised at your reaction. And he said, Doc, based upon where I live, people who look like me, who love like me, and live where I live, this is not surprising. And it stuck with me that it should not matter where you live or who you are in terms of having a predetermined outcome. And so that has stuck with me. And again, in the public health side, that's what we're trying to fight, is that regardless of your demographics, how you slice it by gender, age, race, and ethnicity, or the zip code you live in, that should not predetermine your success in terms of health outcomes and your life expectancy, nor any of those other things that we measure in terms of your life trajectory. So even though it's from a scientific standpoint, there was a lot of focus on the infectious disease component, it taught me and opened up my eyes to all of those other things that we've talked about. And I try to carry that through in the work that we do and the policies that we put forward.
And, a lot of times I hear people say, oh, but that's only for poor people. And that is so not the case. It's for every single one of us. I remember this gentleman, which, by the way, I saw at Kaiser Clinic, this 60-year-old African-American male. He came with bad headache, and his blood pressure was on the ceiling. So I spent seriously half an hour explaining how important the medication was. So after the half an hour of telling the medication, I'm like, okay, so are you going to take it? And he looks at me and he's like, okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to take it. I'm like, but why? You're going to have a stroke. You're going to have a heart attack. It's like, look, my job, I drive in DC. I drive up and down in DC. I cannot stop to pee every half an hour. The medication was making him pee. I'm like, oh, okay. How about if I change the medication for one that doesn't make you pee? Okay, I'll take it, right? So this idea that healthcare is like Grey's Anatomy, and you go and you operate on someone, and that's not what medicine is. Medicine is sitting down, and what Dr. Gales was saying, right? So tell me about this. Why? Let me learn more. What's your life like? Why can't you do these things? Because that's what's going to make you a good professional, whether you are a nurse or a dentist or a pharmacist or a physical therapist. That connection and saying, well, tell me why. And not sort of preaching, but listening to what people have to say, I think make the difference between an excellent profession or a so-so professional.
And it makes a difference what both Dr. Izquierdo and what Dr. Gale said. The things that they're talking about really make a difference in your patients' lives. So if someone can't afford their medication, or if they have a job where the impact of the medication is going to make them pee all day, they're not going to do it. So you have to talk to people to figure that out, though. If you don't talk to them, you'll never know. And you'll keep wondering why the patient is what we call non-compliant or not doing what they're supposed to do. It's because they either can't or it interferes with their lives. So try to meet them where they are and design solutions. If you go into healthcare, design solutions that they can work with you on to get better and that are going to make a positive impact.
Thank you all for that. I think all of you have done a wonderful job at showing how holistic health is and how it intersects with so many different social and economic issues, and how important relationship building is in being a health professional. Our next question is, pretty different from what we've been talking about, but it is, where did you earn your bachelor's or your degrees, and what advice would you give to students aspiring to earn a bachelor's, master's, or PhD in the future? And Ms. Williams-Brinkley, why don't you start us off, and we can go to Dr. Izquierdo and then Dr. Gills.
I earned both my bachelor's and master's degrees at DePaul University in Chicago. So, and I did some PhD work, but my job got to be took too much time. And if I had one thing to do it over, I would have finished my PhD earlier. But I could always finish it at some point if I still want to do that. But DePaul University.
Am I next or?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So I got my bachelor's degree in public policy studies and African American studies from Duke University. And I got my PhD in community health with a focus in health policy, and my MD from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And the reason why I got excited when I heard about DePaul is because I spent many of my early years in Chicago. That's where I did my residency and fellowship training at Northwestern in Chicago, and miss Chicago a lot. But that's where my training and background is from.
And my major was in nursing. Failed to mention that. I was a nursing major.
I think it looks like, oh, are you back, Dr. Izquierdo?
Oh, yes. Sorry. So I was going to say that I don't think mine is going to be so relevant in terms of helping you think through choices. In Spain, we don't need a bachelor's degree to go into medical school, and it's a longer medical school. It's a 6-year medical school. So we squish it all into medical school. I got that from Universitat de Barcelona, and I got my PhD. When I came to the US, I honestly came to do my 2 years of research for my PhD, and then I stayed. When I came, I was doing my PhD at the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. And then, as I said, a lot of the training you have as a physician is around residency and fellowships. So I repeated them here too at University of Maryland and MedStar. So, I would say, make sure it's a school that matches you. And again, that idea of joy and making sure that where you are and what you do makes you happy is a recurrent theme.
Thank you. And on the subject of education, for the students we have in our audience, what classes would you recommend taking to prepare for the medical and community health field? Ms. Williams-Brinkley, could you start us off?
I would suggest you're going to have to take science, and you're going to have to take math, and you're going to have to be fairly good in writing. But I would say that I know physicians who were undergraduate English majors. If you're an English major or a non-science major, then you're going to have to take some extra courses before you could go to medical school. But if you love science, if you love math, if you love quantitative things, then you're going to be successful. And I would say that you can go to most of these schools. Now, nursing is very prescriptive. If you want to be a nurse, you're going to have to, like Dr. Izquierdo said about being in Spain, you are going to have to go to nursing school. And it also requires a lot of math, a lot of science. All of these healthcare fields, if you want to be a geneticist or a researcher, you're going to have to do those kinds of things. So I would say take those courses in high school and find out if you like those things. and find out if they bring you that satisfaction and joy, because they're going to be a part of your life for a long time.
May I say something, Ms. Williams? My best friend in medical school did all her courses on languages, English, Catalan, Spanish, literature, philosophy, and then ended up in medical school. And although I have to tell you, she struggled the first year, the broad sort of view of the world that she brought was very relevant. And I think it was what we were saying, right? Your ability to communicate was enhanced by her having done that. Now, let me tell you, she struggled significantly in the beginning of medical school because we all came with all that knowledge of math and science, biostatistics and physics and all those things that we needed. So I spent all the first year in medical school tutoring her on those things so that she could catch up with us, right? So, but if you suddenly are in the middle of getting your BA, as you were saying, right, in English or in philosophy, and you decide that this is something you want to do, it's doable. It will be somewhat difficult getting ready for your MCATs and learning all those things, but it will also bring a broader perspective to your profession. So don't give up just because you didn't do science when you were expected to do science.
That's extremely important. As I did major in English, but my major, as I pointed out, were not science majors. I started in science because I thought that was what I wanted to do. In terms of when I started my undergrad, I majored in biomedical engineering because I thought I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon and do biomechanical research. And when I did it, I didn't like it. It didn't agree with me. I wasn't good at it. I didn't enjoy it. And I remember asking my advisor, when do I get to take the classes that I really like, that I'm interested in? And he's like, senior year. And I said, I'm not going to waste my opportunity to all these different classes to put in 3 years to do that. So what I would say is, obviously, yes, as has been discussed, there's a set of classes that you have to take that will prepare you to take the MCAT or the dental admission exam, the vet exam, all those different exams. And they also, the graduate schools look at that to get a sense of how you would perform when you get there. Trust me, when you go to medical school or dental school or vet school or those professional schools, they're going to teach you everything you possibly need to know about that profession. You're going to learn it, so don't worry about that. What I would encourage you to do is take those classes that you have to take, if you will, to prepare for the exam. Give yourself an opportunity to do well with them. But I really encourage you to use that as college as an opportunity to explore and find out what you like. Because as has been pointed out by the other panelists, you're going to be doing this for your life. And it's important to think through what it is that you enjoy. For example, when I was in high school doing the program that I mentioned, we met some of the people who did MD, PhD programs. And I'm like, why would you want to go to school that long to pursue that? That's just crazy. I would never do that. In college, same situation. I'm like, why would you ever do that? That just takes so much time. Well, I understood why you did that, because I took the time to take classes and discover this passion in health policy and public health. And I understood sometimes you can't figure out which one you want to do. And in fact, you're meant to do those things integrated. And had I not taken that opportunity to explore and find those other classes, I wouldn't have pursued the path that I did, and I wouldn't have understood the value with it, and I'm glad I did. And it's important to, I also discovered that I really liked literature. In particular, within my African-American studies major, I focused on literature of the mid-20th century as protest literature. So looking at how writers use literature, both fiction and nonfiction, as a way to protest the civil rights movement and the social movements that are happening. And I don't do that in my day job today, but what I did learn within that is how to communicate more effectively, how to write better, how to, have subject verb agreement, and how to be able to have a thesis statement and be able to communicate effectively, because that's a large part of what we do. And I don't know if it's still the case, because I've been some years removed from since I applied to medical school. But the biggest indicator actually for medical school success had to do with how you scored on the verbal section of your MCAT. So the best predictor was what your score was on the verbal reasoning part of the medical college admission exam. And that's what admissions committees look to determine whether or not you would be most successful if they offered you admission. So that's a long answer to say it's important to be well-rounded in general, but it's also important to allow yourself the opportunity to find new things that you may enjoy and like that you may not have known about yourself before.
And let me just add, you're probably going to have a series of careers as you go through life. You may start out as a nurse, physician, dentist, whatever, but that may not be where you end up. If you look at the three of us, we all started out in those professions, and we use those professions to move forward. And it doesn't mean that you have to, but you may find yourself in another career or another type of career. The other thing I would say, I want to underscore something Dr. Gale said about what I'm going to call critical thinking. I think critical thinking is your best tool, irrespective of your major or whatever you do. Critical thinking, and that's the ability to reason and to think your way through a problem or a process. And the thing I say to people is you don't have to know all the answers to everything. You just need to know the right questions and know who has the answers. So think about that critical thinking. How do you think through situations and problems and come up with an approach using other people? Because no one has all the information.
May I add a comment too? And no knowledge is wasted. Right. No knowledge is wasted. Look, in where I come from, knowing languages is valued. So I am very fluent in 4, and I'm not so fluent in another couple of them, right? So when I told my mom, I'm gonna go and learn Portuguese, and she's like, but why? I mean, learn French. They're like this close by. You just drive an hour and you're in France. Learn French. It's more useful. I'm like, nah, I'll learn Portuguese. And it's like, well, it's a little bit wasteful. I'm like, well, at least I'll understand Brazilian music. And we left it at that. I went to school 5 years, not full time, but to school to learn Portuguese. I got my degree in Portuguese. And I came here. And suddenly, I have a big chunk of Brazilian patients. And now this is so useful. And I did it because I just like how Portuguese sound. I had no ulterior motive. But, no knowledge goes to waste. Now we have a subsection of Care for Your Health that can deliver linguistically competent services to the Brazilian community in the county. So, and it's not only me, we have hired other people that can also speak Portuguese, right? So this idea that what a waste, knowledge is never a waste. Learn it and you will use it. It doesn't matter that at the time you're just doing it because it sounded cool and you enjoyed it. You will find a use for it, I promise you that.
Thank you so much. And we're getting a couple of YouTube questions from our students asking what programs in high school they can do right now to prep for a career in the medical field and public health. And I just want to mention that there are academies at several different high schools. I currently go to Thomas Edison, shout out Thomas Edison. Second year, I'm in my second year of the health professions program. So there are programs at Thomas Edison, at Paint Branch, at Seneca Valley, various programs that will help you get prepared for a career in the medical field, and also earn various certifications. Like as of right now, I have CPR and my certified medical assistant certification. So just wanted to touch on that as you're on the topic. So thank you guys.
I just wanted to add on to what Taylor said. There's also, so I currently go to Gaithersburg High School, and we have a biomedical program at our school, which allows students to get that training beforehand. Like Dr. Izquierdo said, knowledge is power. It's something that's always going to be useful. And we also have the CNA program, which allows for students to get certified as nurses. So those are just a couple of academies and programs that you can do in high school, but remember, anything works. But we just want to move on to our next question. Some of you already touched on this, but is there someone specific, like a mentor, a parent, or an experience in general that helped you and inspired you into going to healthcare? We can start this off with Dr. Gales, Dr. Izquierdo, and then Miss Williams-Brinkley.
I would say I'll do a group answer on this one because so I mentioned Dr. Loughran, who was the doctor that I work with in the internship program. But I think for me, coming from a smaller town that unfortunately our school system didn't have those programs that you described. So I'm excited to hear all of those being offered to young folks today. Is I would say the collective body of teachers that I had. So, I didn't grow up with physicians in the family to be able to say, here's the process and how you do this and how you move forward. But I was very fortunate to have all of the teachers I had collectively pushing me to know that was an option for me in terms of thinking about what my future could look like. And I think that started with my parents in terms of saying, we may come from this smaller town where there aren't a whole lot of examples of these different career options, but that should not limit you. And your expectation should be to excel and to be successful. So it started with them. And then, like I said, I've been now as an adult, I didn't understand it when I was younger, but I appreciate it now to all of the teachers who I thought was a little bit of tough love then. I'm like, but I got a 99 on my test. But, they're like, you could have done better. Why didn't you get that 1 point or that extra credit? And helping push me to know that, my expectations and myself could be higher and should be higher. And so, yeah, I would say that they all put it together. And that support has been helpful in terms of moving forward.
I think it's my turn. I have looked at my teachers, I have to say, and not all of them, but I have looked at mentors in terms of, I love how this person does this. I'm going to mirror this piece of the way I do things in that, or I love the way this person does that. And I have had multiple teachers, because mentors a lot of time are teachers too, that I sort of mirrored that element of who they were as professionals to become a better professional myself. If you want, I think all of us, call us, reach out to us. If you need some guidance, reach Dr. Gales and Ms. Williams, because academic guidance in this country is not my thing. But if you need guidance of what it is to be a doctor, I can help you. And just reach out to all these people that you admire. And also pay attention to those things that you don't like, because you can shape yourself not only in contrast to what you admire, but in contrast what you don't think is right. Right? There was a doctor in our village many years ago, and he actually was very instrumental in the way I practice, because I just didn't like anything he did. So I was like, I don't want to be like him. So, look at at people that can support you, talk to them, look at things that you like in terms of what kind of professional you want to end up being, and look at things that you don't, so that you can move away from those things too.
I think I mentioned earlier that it was my grandmother who steered me into nursing. She was a teacher, and most people in my family are teachers, and she decided that I should be a nurse. And but I also got, in addition to my grandmother, I also got a lot of encouragement from my teachers, and someone's mentioned that already. Teachers are very important. I think sometimes we don't give teachers enough credit for how they shape us in so many ways. And then people around me as I got into my career. But I want to say sometimes not everybody has those things. You can gain a lot by reading and watching what other people do. Even if you don't have anyone to encourage you, some people just don't have that. They come from families where that's not something that is there in their family. Don't let that discourage you. Look at what other people are doing. Do a lot of reading, a lot of volunteering, and I guarantee you, if you put yourself among enough people, you're going to find someone who will take an interest in you and someone who you can ask to be your mentor, because most of us are just looking for people who want to be mentored and who want the help in navigating their careers. So I would say just look around you. And the person who can help you may not look like you, they may not come from your background, they may be very different from you. So I would not eliminate anyone who can help you.
Thank you all so much for those little pieces of wisdom. I know our students definitely really appreciate that, especially in the time we are in right now. Just a quick reminder, we are at the 20-minute mark, but our next question is, with healthcare constantly evolving, would you guys just please briefly mention any emerging fields that students can look into for future career paths? We could start with Dr. Gales, go to Ms. Williams-Brinkley, and then Dr. Izquierdo.
I think a couple of quick ones are, emergency preparedness and, pandemic response, public health planning. I think also some of the fields that will open up, if we're fortunate that those conversations around how to tackle all these social determinants of health that we've talked about, there'll be lots of work in those fields as well. From a research perspective, planning perspective, and, a service delivery type perspective, thinking through, social work, behavioral health, economic development, those kinds of things.
I would say, in addition to those things, I would say the field of genetics. Genetics is, as we look at how we customize medications and treatments to be more adherent to a person's genetic makeup, I think that's a field that's really moving forward. I would say telehealth or virtual care, excuse me, and that involves technology. How do we use technology to extend healthcare into places where they don't have doctors, in rural areas, in areas that don't have a large population? So I would say the technology and genetics are big fields going forward.
I think, the way you do things changes. Was a very different cardiologist. For instance, right now, these vaccines that we have right now have a different technology underpinning them than the ones that we have been using to date, right? So there's constant innovation. What Ms. Williams was saying about genetics and how we target little molecules in cancer cells to be able to kill them. So a lot of innovation.
Thank you, all of you, so much. We're going to try to squeeze in this quick YouTube question here. A student is asking, is there a lot of competition to get a job in the medical field? I myself, who want to pursue a career in healthcare, also curious about the culture. So could you all just speak on that a little bit for me and for our students? Ms. Williams-Brinkley, can you start us off? And then Dr. Gales and Dr. Skip.
I believe there's competition in the sense that the academic requirements are rigorous in most of these fields. But I would say that there's going to become there is a shortage already. Let's just face it. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, where a lot of people have been inspired to come into healthcare, especially medicine and nursing, there are many who have burned out and feel like they need to do something different. But I just think the field is wide open again. If you don't feel like you are up to the rigors of the science and the math and all of that, there are all kinds of things you can do. And I love what Dr. Izquierdo said about her friend who struggled, but she made it. The important thing was that she struggled and she made it. And that's what I would say to each of you. If you have your goal set on something, at whatever point in life you are, just keep working towards it and you will make it.
I second that. I think there's need. And if you want to be sure, let me tell you, learn Spanish and you're going to find a job for sure. No questions about it, right? Having a second language that is common in the US will help you get jobs faster. And it's not that easy, not that difficult, sorry. So as you go forward, I don't think you're gonna have trouble getting a job. Now, if you want to be the chief of, I don't know, medicine in the NIH, then yes, of course, those jobs are not that common. But if you just want a job, there's job out there. We need people.
Yeah, we need folks. You're not going to have a difficult time finding a job in any of the different careers that we've thrown out there. And I think even more so moving forward, since there has been a lot of attention on public health and those types of fields, there will be more of an investment in those opportunities. So there'll be increased training opportunities as well as increased jobs that pop up, both in the traditional setting in terms of I have a healthcare related job, but also in thinking through how other industries are understanding how health plays a role in the work that they do. There will be opportunities for jobs in those spaces as well. And the other thing that I will underscore and encourage folks and thinking through, you're mentioning you're interested in medicine, is representation still matters. Even in saying we need folks, communities of color are underrepresented in the medical field. I think the percentages, I think, for example, Black physicians are only 3% of the entire physician population, but we make up 19 to 20% of the actual, U.S. population. So it's important to have representation. And with that, even if there may not be many folks who look like you or the same demographic group, don't let that hinder you from reaching out to folks who don't look like you or may not come from the same background in terms of mentors. Mentors come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. And there's lots of great people out there who are interested in helping you along the way and helping provide an opportunity for you to make to move through your career trajectory.
Thank you so much for those answers. I really think that the students are going to take a lot from that. And it looks like you all really do have a passion for helping students since you've had those previous mentors and have that previous knowledge. But we have a question from YouTube again. Can you be in multiple healthcare professions with the same theme? So like, could you be an obstetrician and a pediatrician as well? We can start this off with Ms. Williams-Brinkley, then Dr. Izquierdo, and then Dr. Gales.
I am going to defer to one of the physicians because I think they have more knowledge about this. So I'm going to defer. I'll come back to a different question if that's okay.
So there are different specialties. Like you can probably not be a podiatrist and an ophthalmologist. I mean, you can, but why not focus on one or the other? But they're like specialties, like for instance, internal medicine and pediatrics, or for instance, internal medicine and physiatry, which is the specialty that works at rehabilitation and all those things, OB and GYN. I mean, those things are specialties that naturally are together. So, you know, yes, you can do two things, but it's not going to work for you. And I would encourage you to think sequentially. Let's try for some years to do that, and then if it's not making me happy, I'll try the next one. Then concurrently, you know, geriatrics, for instance, matches well with palliative care, which is the care at the end of life, right? So there's some specialties that match well together, and you can do them together. There are others that just don't match so well. Dr. Gales, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it depends on how you define the combination of it. So when, you know, as Dr. Izquierdo mentioned, some fields are far apart. And so I'll say this. So in order to, if you're moving down the physician route, you complete your medical degree. Then in order to get trained as part of your medical school career, you have to do what's called rotations. There's a set number of required rotations where you have to go through and test different things out. So for example, usually the required ones are internal medicine, which is adult medicine, pediatrics, surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, family medicine, and psychiatry. And there's a little bit of variation depending upon the school you go into. So everybody has to do those in medical school to help you figure out what you want to specialize in. And then you apply for residency, and residency, when you get into that, is specific to that field. So I did a residency in pediatrics, which means that for 3 years, all I did was treat kids across the spectrum. And I got exposed to different pieces of pediatrics, from nephrology, which is kidney medicine, neonatology, surgery, emergency medicine, across the spectrum. Now, I could stop there and be a general pediatrician, meaning I could see clients in an office, an outpatient setting, or I could work in a hospital setting being a hospitalist, which I did for a while. But I chose to specialize even more within that and focus on the adolescents and young adults. So I did additional training so that I could have that training for that specific population. So it just depends. So you can combine a couple of different things within that. It just depends specifically on what you want to do. But if you do that, you have to get additional training for all of those different things that you combine, as was mentioned earlier.
Thank you for deconstructing the path to a career in healthcare, Dr. Gales. Our next question is especially relevant with the pandemic, where we're constantly being inundated with information. So a student asks in the YouTube chat, how do you stay up to date on current events in the medical and healthcare industries? And whoever would like to take this question can go.
So first, your sources are very relevant, not only for us in the healthcare, but your sources. Do not get health information from TikTok, okay? Where you get your health information matters. Generally, I get my health information from medical journals. I try to read the JAMA, which is the generic for all medicine kind of journal, and it keeps me up to breast with what's happening in specialties that are not mine. Like JAMA has pediatric papers, and I read them because I like to have a sense of what's going in the world of healthcare. And then I read specialized journals like JACS, which is the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, right? So I try to look at trusted sources in the internet, such as, like right now with the pandemic, I look a lot at the CDC and at the FDA to see what they're telling us. And all these, if you look at those websites, they have the public and then they have the professionals website. So you can check them out to see how they look a little bit, they provide a little bit more the scientific basis of the recommendations. And then I listen to my colleagues. Now, when you listen to your colleagues, again, it needs to be a trusted colleague, right? So when Dr. Fauci gets on TV and gives an update, I'll listen to him because for me, he's a trusted clinician, right? So this is very important because all of you are getting health information all the time, particularly in the pandemic. Be careful with your sources. You know, when your health advice comes solely from influencers, be careful. It's probably not going to be as accurate as it needs to be.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a very important message, and I agree wholeheartedly. One more YouTube question for Dr. Gales. What are the most challenging aspects of healthcare and why?
That's a long question. I'll just say briefly within this. The challenges are, actually to the previous question, is making sure to stay up to date with high quality information. As a provider, continuing to learn. Like, I read every day to try to stay on top of things as best as possible because the world is changing on it. It's very fluid and dynamic. So, keeping up pace with new discoveries, new rules, new regulations. I think the second challenge is that, yes, it's important to continue to promote research and scientific discovery in terms of coming up with new medicines and new treatments and new technology. But at the same time, it's also important to do the work to make sure that everybody has access to those new technologies and new treatments and measures. And so doing the work on that side as well to make sure the public policies and the social policies are in line and on track with the research discoveries that we have out there. Money and how to pay for things is always an important issue in terms of making sure that we have the provisions in place to afford what we have to offer, and again, make sure everybody has access to it.
If I could just weigh in on that just for a moment, affordability is really important because if you can't afford your healthcare, you can't get access to it. You may theoretically have access to it, but you really don't. So we have been really working a lot on affordability, and I think as you young people, some of you go into to healthcare, look at the policies that are around who gets healthcare and who doesn't. And in your work in the future, keep that in mind, because if healthcare isn't affordable, you can't get it.
Thank you so much for that. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to ask one of our last questions as we're coming in on our time together. Are there any stigmas or myths about healthcare or the community health that you wanted to debunk? And Summer also asked if there's anything you would change about your field, whether it be structure or culture, like you all just mentioned. If we give each speaker maybe 30 seconds to go ahead and answer this real quick, starting with Ms. Williams-Brinkley, Dr. Gales, and Dr. Izquierdo.
I would change affordability and access for people, and making sure that social health is, the social determinants are part of what we look at for people.
Improved representation across the board, increased access for all. And then I think the last piece I would say is increased work in the area to understand what those root causes are that continue to drive the disparities that we see.
I agree. I would like to see more people with a little accent, a Latino accent, going into healthcare professions, more African-American colleagues going into health professions. I would like when you access healthcare, you are actually faced with people that look like you. And then I would like actually a little bit more integration with traditional ways of seeing health. And that has a long story for another conversation, why we came to the way we practice medicine today. But sort of the integration of native and traditional ways of care into our healthcare system. And then finally, and I think is the biggest, right, is how do we break those bricks of these walls that some of our communities have, right? So instead of building those boxes so that they can jump over the wall, we break those walls so that they no longer exist. For me, is one of the things that needs more work and that we need to continue to absolutely focus on as we move forward.
Thank you all for that. We are actually nearing the end of our time together, so I'm going to be asking our final question. So in 1 or 2 words, what is the most rewarding thing about your career? Dr. Gales, could you start us off?
Helping people.
Helping people.
Helping people.
That's
Thank you guys all so much. Thank you all for your time today. And thank you to the students who submitted questions. I learned so much from this conversation and I appreciate your stories, advice, and your dedication to health. For students interested in learning about MCPS career readiness programs, visit the website on the screen. MCPS offers a number of programs that provide students real-world learning experiences, college credit, and industry certifications.
And thank you to all the students who tuned in today. Let's show on the screen now the QR code and a bit.ly address. Both the QR code and the link will take you to a survey where you can provide us feedback about today's show and future programs. The bit.ly address is bit.ly/Let's Talk Career Survey. Please take the time to share your thoughts and ideas with us. Thank you.
And check out our website, www.mcpsletstalkcareers.org, to watch past episodes and learn about career readiness programs that MCPS offers to students. That's all for today. This is Ashley from Gaithersburg High School.
Taylor from Wheaton and Thomas Edison.
And Helena from Richard Montgomery High School, signing off.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you all.